Hi everyone, we're back with the 2020 Biz Kickstart event, and we are on the final day. Final day, I know, from 1st to the 31st. It feels like we've been doing this thing forever. I'm joined with Katya, who's going to talk to us all about how to triple or quadruple our business while working less. Now, I know a couple of people or a lot of people watching cue the eye rolls, right? But it's definitely doable. It's definitely possible. And Katya's going to break it all down and show us how it's done. So share a bit about you, say hey, and let us know a bit about how you got started.
Yeah. Okay. So how I got started is a long story, but to shorten it or summarize it, first off, my name's Katya Sarmiento. If you don't know who I am, I run reachandmakemillions.com, and I'm currently helping digital marketing agencies scale up to 7 figures. That's like the gist of it right now. But I originally started as a freelance web designer when I was like 13 years old. I would design like MySpace layouts and stuff like that, and like custom code websites for companies. And I just continued progressing on to like the next skill set. I'm completely self-taught. So I taught myself how to code, taught myself how to design, taught myself systems. I've experimented inside of like corporate startups, brick and mortar. And now I'm like, online coaches and consultants, course creators. And now I like working with agencies because they seem like the hardest to systemize because there's a lot of moving pieces and they're delivering like a service that needs to be like high quality and results focused.
Yeah.
But this also applies to like coaches and consultants and course creators as well, because what you're really trying to think about here is how can I do more of what's already working, leverage that in a way either to automate it or delegate it in a way that's repeatable and predictable. And then how can I focus my attention on growth-based work so that the revenue increases, profit increases, expenses stay the same. And that essentially is what scaling a business means. And also having some sustainability, which means no matter what happens, your business keeps running on a consistent, predictable basis and exponentially grows month after month after month. So it's really about business thinking and being strategic with your time and what you choose to do. And that I've been doing this for 7 years and I love it. It's my favorite thing. Like I don't have a zero to hero story. I like people ask me like, what's your zero to hero story? I'm like, I've never been bad at this. Like, it's just how my brain works. Like my best friend, every time he visits, he makes fun of me. He's like, you have a system for your food. You have a system for cutting waffles. Like you have a system for everything. And I'm like, I'm sorry for being me. I don't know if is that a compliment? I don't know. So this is just the work that I love to do. And I love being able to problem solve and really put the pieces together for the business to be able to grow and scale sustainably.
One of the things that interests me a lot is not so much systemizing things, but still getting the results with it. So I guess depending on what your business is, right? So if you do something that's, I guess, systems based, like it's easier to automate, like if you're selling products or that sort of thing, it comes across as being quite easy, right? But if you're a coach, a service provider, you automate something, you must have that question of, will it still get results? Am I sacrificing the quality as soon as I start going down that road?
Yeah, so this is actually a conversation that I have on a weekly basis with my clients because they all come to me with the same thing. It's more of like the creative, strategic parts that feel hardest to systemize. And I get that question a lot. It's like, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I'm coming up with strategy. And then as an agency, I'm implementing that strategy. How on earth am I going to automate something that's bespoke or customized for each of my clients? And the thing is, it's like, I think people are accustomed, like we're not really taught this stuff. So we're accustomed to think like, okay, what this looks like is using Asana or Trello or ClickUp or whatever to create like a to-do list that I'm just going to follow step by step, whether it works or not. And that's actually not what it is. What it is, and actually here's a good analogy. Let's say I hand you a box, a puzzle box, and the image on the puzzle is kittens or whatever. But you don't know that. I just give you a blank puzzle box and I'm like, put the puzzle together. And you're like, I don't even know what this puzzle looks like. Like, how am I supposed to put a puzzle? And you can try, and it's going to be a lot of trial and error for you to try to put the puzzle pieces together and try to figure out, especially if it's like 500, 1,000 pieces, like something.
I'm hopeless at puzzles.
So like, it's just impossible without the image. But if I were to say, hey, here's what the puzzle is supposed to look like. Here are the puzzle pieces. Now put it together. It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's still going to take time, but it's a lot easier. And that's the way that I describe systemizing some of the more creative strategic processes. You're like, you can't give the completed puzzle to somebody. It defeats the purpose of puzzle building. You can't give it to somebody. That's just not going to happen. But you can give them the image, which is the vision. What does the end result look like for you? And if you can describe that very clearly, this is the end result. This is where we are. And here are some puzzle pieces for you to put together. That makes it a lot easier to delegate. And so just to give like a concrete example, ads management. I work with a lot of Facebook ad agencies, and their thing is like, I come up with a strategy. I can teach setting up the ad, but then creating like the images and the copy and the design and like reporting and like actually updating the ads based off of results. That's like hard to do because it's custom for every client. And so what I teach them is set up, like create video tutorials and standard operating procedures, SOPs for the technical bits. And then take a look at all of the past clients you have and really analyze it, because you're probably going to find some commonalities and you're going to find some patterns. Pick out those patterns and commonalities and systemize that. Teach that, create tutorials around that. So for example, let's say for every single ad that you set up, you always set up a landing page, and the landing page needs a name, an email, and a phone number, and a certain, like an image. Like you can probably create a template out of it, even if the template will look like different colors, different images, different copy. The template of it still is a piece. And the fact that you have landing pages is a piece, because I know some clients, instead of doing landing pages, they do the Facebook lead, the lead ads. So that's a commonality right there. Sometimes people do like, okay, we always do like a certain amount of video ads, text ads, and image ads, and we do certain testing and we do certain strategies. You can document all of those processes and all of those strategies and all of those commonalities, and then make sure that you're hiring. Well, first off, that reduces a lot of the workload for you, because now you're just like following a checklist that you created for yourself. But then when you want to hire somebody for that creative process, you want to teach them how to take the different puzzle pieces. Like, hey, so this is the client. This is how we come up with the strategy. This is how we put the puzzle pieces together. And this is what the end result looks like for the clients. And these are the results that we're supposed to get. Same thing for consulting. Like, I even told myself for a long time, I believed that was like, I can't do a group program, or I can't do a leveraged work with clients, because what I teach is so customized. But I challenged myself and I started a group program 2 years ago, and I've just been analyzing the commonalities. And now I have a very clear roadmap, very clear puzzle pieces. And I have already trained 2 people on how to create systems for other people, even if they never had project management experience in the past. I have one person that I trained for over a year, one person that I trained in a couple of months, and I'm about to train a new person. And I knew I had to prove myself wrong, because even though it's a creative process, I'm not special. Like we're honestly not special. Like we can actually sit down and find repeating patterns and things that we can systemize, and then teach somebody else how to go through that thought process of being strategic and being creative and coming up with the work that we come up with. But it requires us sitting down, slowing down long enough to document that and to analyze that and to really dig deep into it, which is the work that I do for my clients.
It's a very interesting point when you go from sort of delivering it yourself and having that realization of, I'm not special. Like, it's not the amount of people that hold on to this whole thing of, well, no one can do it better than me, right? No one can possibly do the thing better than me. And I know I used to have that, right? Because I used to have that too. I'm not like a billionaire, right? but I've been coaching for more than like 15 years. So it's like, okay, can I really teach someone how to be a coach? And I think that's where it comes into it, is you go from delivering it to teaching somebody else to deliver it and sort of replace you, but they probably could never 100% replace you.
Well,
But
yeah.
do they need to? And you start having all these questions inside your own head of, can I actually do it? And I like that you challenged yourself as well. So it was good for people to hear that, you know, even people like yourself are doing this. It's a constant thing. And what sort of sparked in my brain when you were going through the process of the checklists and picking out all the common pieces and laying them all out and all those things, is that this doesn't have to be like one, it doesn't have to be like an A straight to Z thing where you go from automating nothing, systemizing nothing, to fully sort of 4-hour work week style on the beach doing nothing.
Took me 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like you said, like, okay, pick out the commonalities, lay them all out. That's going to make my life a heck of a lot easier. We'll start there. You know, so sometimes people have that sense of, if it's not fully automated, I'm not going to bother, without realizing just make your life easier. I do it all the time. All the time. Just make my life so much easier. I'm a coach. Yeah, I might start training people in a year or two, because I feel like, for me personally, that's a big step up, going from a coach to like a coach educator. There's a very big step for that, because the barrier for entry is so low, right? For being a coach, it's like, I'm a coach now. So to go from that to sort of being a coach educator is quite a big step for a lot of people, and is anyway. So there's that, but then I think people have this thing of, it's so hard to actually sit down, as you said, and slow down and actually do it. What was your process for doing that? Because a lot of people, they wake up, they do the business thing, they go back to bed, they wake up, they do it again, probably get just enough time to recover from the day to be able to do it all over again. So how can you advise people on how to go, right, I get the whole pick out the stuff that works, get rid of what doesn't, simplify everything so then it makes your life easier. But in the back of my mind, I'd be thinking, that takes time.
Yeah.
And it's where would we start?
Yeah. And just to backtrack really quick, because like, let me tell you, I trained my VA up, and she's better than me now at creating SOPs. Like, she will create SOPs without me even asking her to. I've like helped her get a couple of our clients work with her to actually like do project management and systems building. So she's like, definitely like the personality and like the energy of a person is going to be different, but the actual process and getting somebody results is teachable for sure. And where to start? Like, so for example, with you with coaching, I'm sure there's things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, repeating, like you're repeating those things, that you can just take a quick second before you do it, turn on Zoom or Loom or Screencast or whatever screen recorder, and record yourself doing it. And so let's say sending an email out to a client, maybe you still do invoicing manually. There's a way to automate like invoicing so that it comes out recurring every single month, or sending an email like, hey, just wanted to send you your homework for this week. Here's the call recording and here's the homework. Because when I did coaching, I used to do that. I had a little template. I had a help desk. I set up a help desk. I personally use Help Scout, but it doesn't matter. I created a saved reply called coaching homework. And then I would click that button. It would auto-populate the template, and it would have fill in the blanks. So I would say, put call recording here. I would copy and paste it there. Put homework here. I would copy and paste my notes and put it there. Attach notes. I would attach my handwritten notes, because I always do handwritten notes. And then I would send it off, and it was done. It would auto-populate the client's name based off of the email that I put into it. And then eventually I had my VA sending out those emails instead of me, because she would be able to access all of my notes, the call recording and everything inside of Google Drive. So she would be copying and pasting that. And all I had to do was, I had just recorded videos of me doing it one time and then had her doing it the rest of the times. So it's like simple little things, like just take a look at what you're doing in your day to day and just turn on like a video or an audio, do a voice memo. Like, I have a client that does a lot of phone calls. I'm like, ask for permission to record phone calls. And then anything that you record, any video, any phone call, anything, transcribe it. And then you can literally hire somebody to build an SOP or a checklist out of it. And that's the first thing I tell my clients to do, because like I can try to build systems for people, but it's not going to work right unless all of the thinking and thought process and how they do things and why they do things a certain way is out of their brain and documented. My system's not going to work. Like I can't,
No.
you can't, there's no system in a box. Like what works for me is not going to work for you, and it's not going to work for somebody else. So I have my clients document simple things like that and put it into a spreadsheet. And then I'll start building out the systems for them. And I'll start pointing out like, hey, you do this a lot. We can actually automate this. Or, hey, I notice you do this often. So let's think about a way to teach this to somebody so that you don't have to keep doing it. And so it's just really like, first off, documenting the things, because you're going to do it anyways. You're doing it on a day-to-day basis. Just record everything you do, literally. And then we can take a look at those things, like transcribe them, whatever, take a look at them and say, okay, now let's problem solve and figure out a way to leverage your time and to be able to replicate this with somebody else. And the joke that I say often, but it's actually kind of serious, it's like, if something were to happen to me, everything is so well documented and just accessible in one place and consolidated that my boyfriend, who doesn't know anything about online business, could come on here and run the business and just make sure that the things that I need to do get done, like paying the team and like, and even then, like I was trying to think like, what would he actually do? I think he would just check in to make sure that things are running, because my team runs most of the things now. Like I don't have to check in too often anymore. I just coach the clients. And even then my team can coach the clients because they know how I coach people, you know? So it's like, but that's taken years to get to that point, and it's not an overnight process, and it's not a quick fix at all. And that's something I have to warn a lot of people. And I've actually had to turn people away for that because they want a quick fix. And I actually had a client who joined my program and was complaining, and they're like, I don't feel like a lot of momentum. We were working on their project management system for over a month. So I understand their complaint. Like I would be frustrated too, because it's like, we're just building out systems inside of Trello. Like what's that going to do? Yeah. But they ended up traveling to a foreign country and got arrested. And because they were a tourist, and it was like a really weird situation, like they honestly shouldn't have been arrested. They were a tourist, and they detained them for 3 weeks. And right. They were a Facebook ads manager for e-commerce, online e-commerce stores. And this was during Black Friday and Cyber Monday, the biggest time for e-commerce of the year. And after the fact, he was telling me he was so worried because he thought he was going to lose all his clients because he wasn't around, but there was nothing he could do. There was no outside contact. He came back. His team had run the show. They followed the processes that we had built out inside of Trello. And the clients got results, and the clients were happy, and he didn't lose any of them. So like over a month. And then afterwards he was like, thank God we worked on Trello for over a month. Thank God, because I was being very nitpicky. Like he documented his processes, and I'm like, but you have to think about it this way. Like if I were to come in as your team member, would I be able to replicate this thing that you just did? No, we need to clarify it. We need to make sure that this makes sense to somebody who's not you. So either there's information missing, or we need to show and teach how to do this, or you need to record a video. Like I was very nitpicky about it because I know I didn't want him to get arrested to understand this, but I understand. And I've been trying to teach people to understand that like shit can happen, excuse me, but like life can happen. Yeah. And like, you know, you never know. And there might be times where you need to like take care of yourself because you're sick. I had another client who his entire team got sick. And he was sick for like 2 months, and things kept running. And like, you know, I had a family member that got sick. I got sick from mold for a year. I've been traveling a lot. I've just been having a lot of like places to go to, and I've just had the team running it. And it's just like, there's times where like other things are going to take your attention. And when that happens, when you're not around paying attention to your business for 2 to 4 weeks, 1, will it keep running? And 2, will it grow? Those are the 2 questions. And most people say no and no. And that's scary. That's a big risk. So the choice to make is, do you continue putting out fires and doing the day-to-day and ignoring the fact that if you disappear for 2 to 4 weeks, that your business runs on you. Your business depends on you showing up every day to run and to grow. And so the choice is, are you going to ignore that, or are you going to do something about it? And doing something about it is as simple as documenting things as if you were teaching somebody who has no idea what you're doing, and making it as clear and repeatable as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I think the idea of sometimes documenting it just for your own sake can help at first. You know, as we've sort of been discussing as well, I think that there's definitely a lot of weight to that, because especially like if you're putting processes together, you're putting together like the client journey, you know, even if you're delivering a service or a product or whatever it is, there's gonna have a start and a finish somewhere. That alone can make things easier. And I mean, one of the things that I heard a while ago was a lot of people started doing that with, like, if we take coaching or consultancy as an example, just by documenting like the sessions that they had, the work that you did. What they realized was they were doing stuff that didn't actually work, and when they took that out, the clients got results faster. And then they were allowed, because they thought, oh, I'm actually better at what I do. By documenting everything and getting rid of what doesn't work, they then started to charge more, and they started to get better results faster. And so just by doing that, you could actually improve your business all by itself before you do any of the other stuff that we've spoken about. So it's a good example, as well as like the whole sort of can't believe I had to go to jail to realize this, but like it was, sometimes you've got to ask yourself, like, if I wasn't there, would the business, as you said, would it run or would it grow? So for me, my business would run. Would it grow? Yeah. So I can answer yes to both of those. Lucky me. But there'd be a lot of people that can't do that. And you've spoken a lot about the idea of someone else can learn it, someone else can do it, someone else can take it off your hands. Now, I know it's took you 2 years to do this, but this implies that you're in a position to hire staff. So your business has got to a point whereby you can hire staff, take on the expense, the time commitment, all those things of having a team, and the business is still doing very well.
Yeah. And it also, like, it took me 2 years because, one, I'm a perfectionist and I'm a control freak, and letting go of the actual delivery of building out systems was a more personal mindset belief that I had to break through. Because, like, another example, I started a company with Scott Wolford called Bots for Business, and we were building many chat bots for people. I built one bot. We actually, it was like Friday or something, we decided we're going to sell bots. Saturday, Scott was like, okay, we have 10 new bot clients. We have to deliver this. And then I built out the whole system. I built one bot, recorded the process, and started training somebody else to do it, because I definitely did not want to be building bots. I really did not care to build bots whatsoever. I was just good at it, but it was not something fun for me, and not something like whatever. So like I automated that, templatized it, productized it, just taught somebody else, and I did not build bots anymore. And I worried about other stuff. Built a team, and we went from 0 to 6 figures in less than in 3 months actually. And then we sold it 6 months later. So like, it's possible to do it quick. It just also depends on your mindset. Like, it was really hard for me to let go of control. And even to this day, like the VA that I trained for the past year or two, she has to nag me. She's like, hey, so now I've been doing these audits for people. And she's like, hey, when are you going to teach me the audit? Hey, let's build an SOP for it. She started outlining, she's transcribed all of the audits I've done so far, started following my process to find commonalities. Like, she's pushing me to let go of this to her too. And it's just this thing where I love this work. I love it so much. I don't want to let it go. It's my baby, right? And even I go through like mindset issues, and that's why I have mindset coaches, and I have to work through those things with them. Like marketing and sales, that was for 7 years really hard for me to let go of. And recently I hired a copywriter. I'm like, you can post as me on my Facebook, write whatever copy you want. I'm not going to micromanage. I'm not going to review it. I trust you. You know me. We've worked together long enough because we've done a lot of copywriting together. And I just handed it off completely. And it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. And so it's like it's partially like actually doing the systems, but then it's a lot of mindset stuff, and it's totally normal. It's not like you're going to arrive at this place where you're the perfect CEO and the perfect business owner and like you have zero beliefs. Like that's always going to be a lifetime process. You're always going to have stuff to work on and to grow out of and to challenge yourself with. But as long as you're challenging yourself, like that's why 2 years ago I challenged myself. I'm like, I'm going to do a group. I've been saying for over 7 years that I can't do group. I'm going to fucking do it now. Like, that's it. I'm doing it. So whether I like it or not, it's going to happen. And you have to like kind of keep challenging yourself and challenging your beliefs in that way and proving yourself wrong or proving yourself right. Like there have been mistakes that I've made and I'm like, well, that was a very bad judgment call. And I learned my lesson. You know, and so but that's what business is. Like we have to separate business and emotions, and I'm a very emotional person, so I have a hard time with this. And I have to think about it like, if I am an employee of this company, even though it's my company, I am an employee of it, and so I need to show up and do the work that I am required to do. I have to have a clear role and responsibilities to me. I have key performance indicators, KPIs. Like there are certain things that I need to do and I need to show up and do them. And if this were a company like McDonald's, like I wouldn't expect the CEO of McDonald's to be there at the cash register, taking my order, cooking up the chicken nuggets and fries and burgers, taking drive-through orders, unfreezing stuff from the freezer, unloading the trucks that deliver stuff. I wouldn't expect that. So why do I expect that from me? And I have to really I have to separate my emotions. And it's like, what is best for the company right now? Not based on my emotions, but based off of what's actually going to make this sustainable and scalable. And it's hard. And that's where mindset coaching comes in. Mm-hmm. But if you start thinking that way, it helps a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of people that would be very, very strongly agreeing with that. I think that the thing that sort of stuck with me was, even though it's your company, you still work for the company. Like the company's bigger than just you, which to a lot of people, it's easy for them to see it that way. And then for other people, as you said, it can be very difficult to see it that way. You know, it's very, very hard to let go of the whole, but it's mine.
Yeah.
You know? And the reason why I know that's the phraseology that I use. So I know there's going to be other people using the
same. Me too.
So
Me too.
With that in mind, though, when you first start, it probably is you.
Yeah.
So this is a massive assumption now, but it does sort of imply that the business has to be at a certain point before we can even consider this. Like a startup where you're delivering the service and all that, it's going to be very hard for that person to go, okay, staff, but I don't know where to start. Because it's just like a one-man band sort of situation. And they're like, well, okay. So it's hard for that person to really picture it right now. But I imagine they just have to grow the business and do some of the stuff that we spoke about before, automating bits and pieces. But at what point would a business want to say, I'm ready to commit to this? Is there a certain threshold that people have to hit before they go, okay, we're at this point, we've made it, let's start going down the path that Katya is taking us through?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to say no. And because here's the picture that I want to paint. It's still a company. It's still an entity. You have to register it wherever you live. And you're probably going to get like in the US an EIN or tax ID number, or you're like a sole proprietor LLC, whatever it is. So it's still an entity of its own. The thing is, you are an employee, but you are in an employee in multiple roles. So you're the marketing department, the sales department, the client fulfillment department, the customer support department, the CEO and executive team, right? You're just in all of those roles. So actually, the sooner you think of your company as a separate entity from yourself, the sooner you can actually, the quicker you can grow it, the sooner you can scale, which is why like the company I started with Scott just worked so fast because we were on the same page about that. But it's like thinking about it, if this company is a separate entity from myself, what does a company require to grow? That cuts out a lot of like the busy work. Like it doesn't need a website. You don't need business cards. You don't need any of that stuff when you're starting. What you need when you're starting is clients, people that will pay you for a service that they need, that you can get them results for. That's what a company requires at the start. You need to find the market, you need to validate the market, and then you need to be profitable. That's the first thing your company requires. Yeah. Then since you are the marketing department, sales department, client fulfillment department, and let's say the company has a valid market, target market, validated offer, and you're making some money out of it, what's the next thing the company requires? Probably making sure that the offer and the service delivery is like on par, getting people results really, really good. So you start working on that. And then that might be when you want to start thinking like, now that I have my service delivery pretty set to go, I should probably hire somebody to help me with this. And then you start hiring for that. And then there's going to be different hiring decisions at different points of business. Like I can't sit here and say like, this is step-by-step what you do, because every business is different. But the sooner you start thinking and separating your emotions and yourself from the business, the sooner you can make good business decisions. And I've seen people go like have massive growth and results just by doing that, even though they just started, even though they are a solopreneur or the only one running the business. Like you still have to treat it as what it is, and it is a company and it is an entity, and you have clients and you have a service and you have offers and you have a target market. Like the company has these things, and if you continue to allow it to rely on you, and if you continue to make emotional decisions, that's where I have people that are making 7-8 figures and it's a mess, and they have staff, but the staff is just wasting time and money, and they are constantly up and down with expenses. And it might look pretty on the outside because they make a lot of revenue, but trust me, they spend just as much. They're burnt out. They're spending they have, like, just imagine if you don't set up these systems now when you're making like maybe let's say $20,000 a month, imagine making $100,000 a month, having staff, and that's a lot of responsibility and weight on your shoulders to perform every month. And if you don't perform, the business doesn't perform at the level that you want it to. And that level is pretty high now. So like to slow down to set up systems is higher risk, and it's terrifying. And it's now like the livelihood of other people depending on you. So it's better to do it sooner rather than later, even if it just means like documenting things here and there and separate, like not making emotional decisions. Like I know a lot of people that hire out of desperation versus having an action plan. Yeah. So it's like little things like that. I would actually encourage to think like a business owner and like an employee sometimes, and separate the company and really strategically think like, what does the company need? And you can cut out a lot of busy work this way.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that, because if you think about, there are so many options as well. As you say, all the companies are different. There's so much going on. You never know like what we should really do. But if you think like an employee, you know, like sometimes, I mean, what was curious as well was the whole scalability of it all. Like if you can't handle it at say 20 or 30,000 a month, you can't do any more than that. If you're already stressed out, you're already anxious, you're already fatigued all the time, but you want to scale up, it's like, how do you intend on doing that? Like, just, you know, how do you intend on adding to an already very, very busy plate? So
money does not make problems go away.
No.
More money makes bigger problems, honestly.
Unless it's well spent. So I think that's what it comes down to as well, isn't it? It's like, okay, well, when I'm wearing the owner hat, how do I do it? But then thinking like an employee means that what's best for the company might not be best for you as well. So it's a very interesting, again, you're talking for long enough for me to process everything that you're saying while you're saying it. So I'm sort of like, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's curious that since, well, many years ago, I started doing this, and I realized that if you make where you're at now easier, you can scale it without a whole lot of stress.
Yes.
Where if where you're at now is tough, like you're losing sleep maybe, you're a bit short fused. Doesn't take a lot to make people more short fused than normal, you know, just that little bit of pressure bubbling up away in the background. That can be enough for people to like struggle or not think that they can handle it. The amount of people that don't trust themselves at a higher level because where they're at now, they're not sure if they can do it. They're not sure if they're ready. They're not sure if they can handle it. And you know, you can get into the weeds mentally with that. That's part of what I do. But also, you can't get around the fact that you could just be working too hard or doing things that don't matter.
Yep. Yes, and that's usually the case.
You can't outthink a bad process, you know.
Oh yeah, that's true. You can't outwork a bad process too, because you're just going to burn out and not be able to do the work at the end. So even if you slow down long enough to think about it, like my Facebook cover photo has been like that for a long time. It's like, if you're too busy to build systems, you're always going to be busy.
Yeah.
That's the truth of it. There's no way around it. Like, I wish there was a quick fix or an easier way, because I would love to give it to people, but like, and because I seriously have people coming to me and they're like, well, maybe I should get more clients and maybe I should make more money. I'm like, okay, if you do that, this is what's going to happen, because you already lose clients as it is. So you're going to, even if you make more money, you're going to have this amount of like refunds and churn to deal with. You're going to have the stress of clients being upset. Your reputation is going to go down. So it's like, do you want to do that? Or do you want to slow down your revenue for a little bit, set up the processes really well, and then be able to shoot up without any of the consequences that go behind not having good processes, right? So it's really sense. Yeah, it's like second and third order of consequences. Like, first order of consequence of eating a cookie, you get instant gratification, you feel good, you get a sugar high, yummy, it's delicious. But then second and third and fourth order of consequences, like if you eat a lot more cookies and you get addicted to sugar, and then you get diabetic, and then you get overweight, and then you get unhealthy, and then you have medical bills and doctors, and you miss time with your kids, maybe you pass away earlier, so your kids don't have you to grow up with, like stuff like that. We don't really want to sit there and think about that, because first of all, it's depressing and morbid, and then second, it's not happening right now. Versus first order of consequence, we don't eat the cookie. It sucks right now because it's not instant gratification. But second, third, fourth, fifth order of consequences is we don't get addicted to sugar. We actually eat healthy meals. We go work out. We take care of our bodies. We have good health. We live a long time. We spend a lot of time. We go running outside with the kids. Like, we have to sit down and think about that with business, and not a lot of people will sit down and tell you that. A lot of people will be like, yeah, I'll help you make money right now. I'll help you make like tons of money right now. But then you don't think about the consequences of like churn, like clients leaving or getting mad, or your reputation going down, or like not being able to handle, or having to do like 60-hour work weeks or 70 or 80, or like crazy working weekends, nights, holidays. I've heard of like women giving birth and working at right there with their laptop, missing out on kids. Like, it's just like, and burnout is not just like, oh, I'm so tired today. It's like ending up in the hospital. Like, it's serious.
I got pretty close to that when I had to, I think I had to take a month off.
Yeah. So it's like, you have to kind of think about those consequences, and no one's really sitting down and talking about that. And like, going to jail is so random. Getting sick from mold is so random. But like, those are big scenarios that happened. But just even little scenarios, like having to say no to going to like your kid's concert because you have to take a call at the time, or having a team member and then it doesn't work out and you wasted a couple of months of time and money paying them when they weren't doing anything. Like having a client send you a really passive aggressive email, like things like those little things add up over time until it starts to have the snowball effect, and it just becomes like this huge snowball that just smacks you and knocks you over, right? And that's what I'm trying to avoid, because I worked with 7 and 8 figure companies for a very long time, and I consulted for them, and I did a lot of work, and like I still do on-demand COO work with clients. But my mission now is to be more preventative. Like, I would rather prevent cancer than have to cure cancer, you know? Because I feel like this is very preventable. And I feel like if we start thinking about the consequences behind everything, good and bad consequences, we can really make some good strategic decisions for how we set up our business long term in a way that doesn't rely on you to continue to show up to run the show and to grow the business, and doesn't burn you out, and gives you the time and space and freedom to be able to do the work that you love and have a business that you actually enjoy and that is profitable and that takes care of you, you know?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, I just went off on my soapbox there because
That's okay.
this
I mean,
is actually really important to me. So, but
echo the whole thing because, you know, as someone with health conditions, with someone that did push it, with someone that actually enjoyed it, that was the worst thing. I enjoyed it because I love the work. So naturally, you are gonna, if anything, you feel bad for taking time off because you want to do it. It's like I felt glutton for punishment at the time. I mean, now looking back, it was like I loved the punishment. Very weird personality back then, but that's the way it can be sometimes. I mean, just hearing you sort of go through it all and on your soapbox about the whole thing, I think I think the problem with it is we go into business because we want to. We don't do something that we hate. It's very rare you see an entrepreneur or a business owner go, I don't like doing that. I know I'll do that as a business. That doesn't happen. And I think that sometimes we can use that to justify not doing the steps that we've talked about. So
yeah,
we can use the whole, but we love it. So right, well, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't make life easy for yourself. That doesn't mean that you
yeah,
shouldn't delegate some of it. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't come up with a process. It doesn't mean that just because you love it, surely you'd enjoy it a lot more if it was easier to do at
yeah.
the same time.
And if you could spend more time in your zone of genius and in flow state versus having to break that state to do a lot of the things that you don't love to do or that you have to do because it's the work you have to do to run the business, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I totally agree with that.
Where can people learn more about you? So we're at the end now. It's been really, really great to chat to you, Katya, as always. It's amazing to connect with you every single time that we do. Where can people learn more about what you've got going on?
Yeah, so anyone can look me up on social media, Katya Sarmiento. I'm on all of them, but definitely check out 7ffa.com. It's the number 7ffa. Um, I have a manifesto on there. Speaking of my soapbox, I have a manifesto on there, and it's 6 pages long. It takes like about 20 minutes to read total, and I walk through exactly what it looks like to scale a business with specific examples, case studies, everything. I even have some funny GIFs and memes and Pokemon references for those. I don't like to do things boring. I like to have fun when I'm talking about serious topics.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out. It's completely free. There's no opt-in. I don't want your email. Unless you think that my content is actually valuable and you will get a return out of giving me your email, read it for free. No upfront opt-in. And really, when you're reading it, analyze your own business and really start to think about what changes you can make to be able to scale. And I really challenge that on that website, on that manifesto. And there's no navigation. It's literally like you read the page, you click next, you read the page, you click next, you read the page, you click next. So it's not complicated. So I've been telling everybody, just read this and decide for yourself what your next steps are.
What was the website again?
7ffa.com. It stands for 7-Figure Freedom Accelerator. That's
Nice.
what the abbreviation is. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, Katya, thanks for coming on. Love to chat as always, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Yes. Thank you for having me.